All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're going deep on something pretty vital, literally the human heart. I mean, we all know it's important, keeps us ticking and all that, but how many of us really get what's going on in there?
You'd be surprised how many people just think of it as like a symbol, not this incredible biological machine working 24/7.
Exactly. So, whether you're prepping for a biology exam, just curious about your own body, or maybe a little hypochondriac like me,
No judgment.
we're going to break it down, starting with the basics. Location, 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 as they say, this thing exactly.
Well, we know it's in the chest, right? But tucked a bit to the left of center, between your lungs, protected by the rib cage, of course.
Wait, to the lefty too? Not right in the middle like all those Valentine's Day cards show?
Nope, slightly off center, gives it room to, well, do its thing. That pumping action needs space.
Huh, never thought about that. Okay, so besides bones, what else is protecting this all-important organ?
It's got its own special bodyguard, a double-layered sac called the pericardium. And this isn't just a fun fact, it's vital. Imagine if this sac filled up with fluid.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Not at all. It's a condition called cardiac tamponade, and it can be life-threatening. That fluid puts pressure on the heart, prevents it from beating properly.
Okay, yeah, pericardium is important. Point taken. Now, moving into the heart itself, what's the deal with those four chambers? Not just one big blood balloon in there,
All
right?
right, think of it like a house, 4 rooms, each with a very specific job.
Mhm.
We got the 2 atria upstairs, so to speak, and the 2 ventricles below.
So blood's coming back to the heart, enters those atria rooms. What happens then?
Atria are the receiving rooms. They collect blood returning from either the body or the lungs. Then give it a squeeze, push that blood down into the ventricles, which are the real pumping powerhouses.
Gotcha. And to make sure everything goes the right way, we've got those valves, yeah.
Absolutely essential. Think of them like one-way doors, ensuring blood flows in the correct direction. NO, backflow allowed.
Yeah, I'm starting to get why even a little backflow would mess things up big time.
hmm
Okay, now this whole two circuits thing, systemic and pulmonary circulation, that sounds complicated.
It's elegant, actually. Imagine 2 separate but interconnected road trips for your blood. Systemic circulation, that's the long-haul oxygen-rich blood from the left ventricle out to every corner of your body.
Whoa, so the left ventricle is doing the heavy lifting there.
It is. Needs to be strong to pump through that vast network of arteries. Meanwhile, pulmonary circulation, that's a shorter trip, all about the right ventricle, sending blood to the lungs to pick up fresh oxygen and dump the CO2.
Right side handles the lungs, left side the rest of the body. Makes sense. But how do we actually hear this happening? That lub-dub sound everyone knows.
That, my friend, is the sound of those crucial valves closing as the heart goes through its pumping cycle. Each lub-dub is one complete heartbeat.
Hold on, before we get to the sound itself, explain that cycle a bit more. It's not constantly squeezing, right?
You got it. 2 main phases. Diastole, that's the relaxation phase, heart's filling up with blood. Then comes systole, the contraction phase, when the ventricles pump that blood out.
So the lub sound is,
That happens in the beginning of systole, when the atrioventricular valves close, preventing blood from flowing back UP into the atria.
and then the dub is when?
End of systole, as the ventricles relax and the semilunar valves close, preventing backflow into the ventricles.
Aha. So each sound is a specific action. It's like a perfectly timed dance.
Exactly. And it's not just a cool sound. Doctors use stethoscopes to hear those nuances. A trained ear can detect if something's offbeat.
Wow, so much info packed into that simple lub-dub. Speaking of complex systems, let's talk about the heart's electrical system. That's what keeps it all running on time, right?
The heart's own power grid keeps those contractions happening in that perfect rhythm. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, the automatic part is amazing, but how does it actually work?
The heart has its own internal pacemaker, the SA node. Think of it like the conductor of an orchestra, sending out electrical signals that tell the heart muscle when to contract.
So if the SA node's the conductor, what's the orchestra itself?
The musicians are the heart muscle cells. Those electrical signals spread through special fibers, making the atria contract first, then the ventricles.
So it's not just muscle, it's timing coordination.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
This precise timing makes blood flow efficient. Imagine if the ventricles contracted before the atria were finished filling.
Chaos, like trying to fill a water balloon while someone's squeezing it already.
Exactly. This system ensures smooth, coordinated flow. Now, how do we actually measure how well the heart's pumping?
Well, we know it beats a certain number of times per minute, right? But is that all there is to it?
That's just one part. Heart rate tells us beats per minute, but we also got to consider how much blood is pumped with ECH beat, That's stroke volume.
Wait, so TDO factors determine how much blood gets out. Tell me more about this.
It's fascinating. Cardiac output is the term. It's the total amount of blood pumped per minute, calculated by multiplying heart rate by stroke volume.
Mhm.
Even if your heart rate stays the same, if your stroke volume increases, your cardiac output goes up too.
So it's not just beating faster, it's pumping more with each beat. That's wild.
It is. Think about when you exercise, your heart beats faster.
Oh, yeah.
But your stroke volume increases too. Your heart's adapting, pumping more blood with each beat because your body needs more oxygen.
To someone who exercises a lot.
Often has a lower resting heart rate because their heart's more efficient. Like they've upgraded their heart software.
Okay, that makes so much sense. But what about when things go wrong? Not every heart works perfectly, right?
Unfortunately, you're right. And that's why understanding how it all works is so important. Helps us prevent and treat those conditions that can arise.
So we know high blood pressure is bad, clogged arteries are bad, but give me the specifics. What are we talking about here?
Well, high blood pressure, or hypertension, it puts constant strain on the heart, making it work harder than it should. Over time, that weakens the heart muscle, can lead to heart failure.
And those clogged arteries?
That's atherosclerosis. It's like plaque builds up inside the arteries, narrowing them, restricting blood flow, leads to chest pain, angina, and if it gets bad enough, even a heart attack.
Okay, this is getting a bit heavy. Are there reasons to be hopeful, though? Things we can do to keep our hearts healthy?
Absolutely. While genetics play a role, lifestyle choices make a huge difference. Diet, exercise, managing stress, these all contribute to heart health.
So it's not all doom and gloom. We have some control here.
You absolutely do, and that's empowering. We'll talk more about what you can do in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, good. Because right now I'm feeling a mix of awe at how complex this organ is and a bit of anxiety about everything that could go wrong.
I understand. But knowledge is power. The more we understand, the better we can take care of ourselves.
Well said. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the world of the human heart. Welcome back to our deep dive into the heart. Last time we were talking about how efficiently the heart pumps blood through the body, but I realized we didn't talk too much about what affects how much blood is pumped with each beat.
Right, we touched on stroke volume, which is the amount of blood ejected with each contraction. But there's more to the story. Several factors can influence how much blood the heart pumps with each beat.
So it's not just a set amount. Our heart adjusts depending on what's going on.
Exactly. Let's imagine the heart as like a finely tuned engine. Like any engine, its performance depends on certain factors, just like your car needs the right fuel mixture and spark timing.
Okay, I like that analogy. Tell me about these engine specs for our hearts.
So one important factor is something called preload. This is essentially the amount of blood that fills the ventricles before they contract.
So the more blood that flows into the ventricles, the more they have to push out. Sounds logical, but is there more to it than that?
Yeah, it's not just about the volume. It's also about the stretching of the heart muscle. The more the ventricles fill, the more the muscle fibers stretch. And up to a point, the more they stretch, the stronger the contraction.
So it's like a rubber band. The more you stretch it, the harder it snaps back.
That's a good analogy. Of course, if you stretch a rubber band too far, it breaks. The heart has its limits too.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the pressure the heart has to work against to push the blood OUT? Like, how does that factor in?
You're talking about afterload. That's the pressure the heart has to overcome to eject blood into the arteries. Imagine trying to blow air into a balloon that's already partially inflated. It takes more effort.
Okay, I get it. So if someone has high blood pressure,
Their afterload is higher. Exactly. The heart has to work harder to push the blood out, which can put a strain on the heart muscle over time. It's like asking your car engine to constantly run uphill.
and just like an overworked engine, eventually the heart can start to have problems.
Precisely. Understanding those factors, preload, afterload, and how they interact is crucial for maintaining heart health. They help us see how different conditions can affect the heart's ability to do its job.
It's also interconnected. We talked about the pericardium earlier, that protective sac around the heart. But what else helps to protect this vital organ?
Well, it's not just one layer of protection. The heart's also surrounded by the rib cage, which acts like a bony shield, and the lungs, which cushion it from impact.
So it's like a fortress with multiple lines of defense, which makes sense, I guess, given how vital the heart is.
Absolutely. The body has evolved multiple mechanisms to protect the heart because, well, without it, we wouldn't be here. It pumps the blood. But what exactly is blood, and why is it so important?
Yeah, we keep talking about blood being pumped around, but it's not just some random liquid, right?
Definitely not. Blood is a complex fluid that's essential for transporting oxygen, nutrients, hormones, even fighting off infections. It's like a delivery service and a security force all in one.
Okay, I'm getting a new appreciation for blood. And the heart is the engine that keeps this whole delivery system going. But we mentioned that this engine relies on an electrical system to keep it running smoothly. We talked about the SA node being the pacemaker, but how does that signal actually spread throughout the heart, making all those different parts contract at the right time?
That's where the conduction system comes in. Think of it as a network of specialized fibers that carry the electrical impulse from the SA node throughout the atria and then down to the ventricles. It's like a complex wiring system, ensuring that the electrical signal reaches every muscle cell at the right time.
So if the SA node sets the tempo, the conduction system is what distributes the beat.
Exactly. It's what allows the different chambers to contract in the correct sequence. The atria contract first, pushing blood into the ventricles. Then, a split second later, the ventricles contract, sending blood out to the lungs and the rest of the body.
It's mind-blowing how much coordination is happening in every single heartbeat. But what happens if those signals get messed up? Like, what could go wrong there?
That's when you can get arrhythmias, which are irregular heartbeats. It's like the electrical signals get crossed, causing the heart to beat too fast, too slow, or just erratically.
And those can be dangerous, right? I mean, we all feel our heart skip a beat sometimes. Is that something to worry about?
Well, some arrhythmias are harmless, just a little blip in the system, but others can disrupt the heart's ability to pump blood effectively. That can lead to fatigue, dizziness, fainting. In serious cases, even cardiac arrest.
So understanding the heart's electrical system isn't just an academic exercise. It's crucial for diagnosing and treating these potentially serious irregularities.
Absolutely. And as technology advances, we're developing even more sophisticated ways to monitor and manage arrhythmias, helping people live longer, healthier lives.
I'm really starting to see how the heart isn't just a simple pump. It's this incredibly intricate and interconnected system, a marvel of engineering.
You got it. And as we delve deeper into its mysteries, we gain a greater appreciation for this incredible machine that keeps us alive. But the story of the heart isn't just about its mechanics. It's also about what happens when things go wrong.
Okay, bring on part 3. I'm ready to dive into the world of heart conditions and what we can do to keep our hearts healthy. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey so far, exploring the heart's anatomy, those chambers and valves, the electrical system that keeps everything in sync, even how factors like preload and afterload can impact its performance.
It really is remarkable how much is going on in this organ that most of us, kind of take for granted until, well, something goes wrong.
Which leads us to the less fun part of our deep dive today. We've hinted at some things that can go wrong, but let's really get into specifics. What are some of the most common heart conditions people actually face?
Well, sadly, heart disease is a leading cause of death worldwide. And one of the most common culprits is coronary artery disease. Now, those are the arteries that supply blood to the heart muscle itself. And when they get clogged...
It's like the heart's own plumbing gets backed up.
Yeah, exactly. Over time, plaque builds up inside those arteries, narrowing them and restricting blood flow, like a traffic jam in those crucial blood vessels.
And I'm guessing that reduced blood flow can cause some serious problems.
Oh, absolutely. It can start with chest pain, angina, often triggered by exertion or stress. But if a blockage becomes severe enough, it can completely cut off blood supply to a portion of the heart muscle. That's a heart attack.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
We've also talked about high blood pressure a lot. How does that damage the heart exactly?
Right, so hypertension, that's the formal name, it puts a constant strain on the heart. Remember we talked about afterload. That pressure the heart has to push against to pump blood out. Well, high blood pressure means higher afterload, makes the heart work much harder with every single beat.
So it's like asking your heart to run a marathon, but like sprint the whole way. No wonder it causes problems.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Over time, that constant strain can weaken the heart muscle, making it less efficient at pumping blood, and that can lead to a condition called heart failure.
We also touched on arrhythmias earlier, those irregular heartbeats caused by disruptions to the heart's electrical system. Are there like a lot of different types of arrhythmias?
There are indeed. Some are harmless, just a quick flutter, a skipped beat you might not even notice. But others can be much more serious, disrupt the heart's rhythm so much that it can't pump blood effectively.
And what causes those different types?
Well, it can vary. Some people are born with certain types of arrhythmias, genetic factors. Others can develop them later in life, often as a result of other heart conditions like that coronary artery disease or high blood pressure we talked about.
So it's not always a simple diagnosis, figuring out what's causing an arrhythmia.
Right? It can be complex. That's why it's essential to see a doctor if you experience any unusual or persistent heart rhythms, palpitations, fluttering, a racing heart, especially if they come with other symptoms like dizziness or shortness of breath.
Okay, this is all feeling a little overwhelming. It sounds like there are so many things that can go wrong with this seemingly simple organ.
It's true, the heart is vulnerable to a range of conditions. But the good news is we're learning more all the time about how to prevent and treat these conditions. Incredible advancements in medical science.
Okay, that IS reassuring. What are some of the most promising developments in heart health? What gives you hope for the future of cardiology?
Oh, so many exciting things happening. New medications that are more targeted and effective at managing conditions like high blood pressure and heart failure. Minimally invasive procedures are becoming more common, allowing us to treat blocked arteries and repair damaged valves with less risk and faster recovery times.
Yeah, it's amazing to think how far we've come. What about those futuristic therapies we hear about sometimes?
Those are becoming reality too. Gene therapies are being explored for treating inherited heart conditions. Stem cell research holds promise for actually regenerating damaged heart tissue. It's a really exciting time to be in cardiology.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the human heart, what's the biggest takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Hmm. I think it's this. While the heart is incredibly resilient, it's not invincible. We need to be proactive.
And what does that look like, day to day?
Starts with understanding our own risk factors, family history, age, lifestyle choices, underlying health conditions, all that. From there, it's making those healthy choices we hear about. Balanced diet, regular exercise, managing stress, not smoking, limiting alcohol.
So, those everyday choices, they really do make a difference.
They absolutely do.
Huh.
And of course, crucial to see a doctor if you have any concerning symptoms or questions about your heart health. Early detection and treatment are key to preventing serious complications.
Well said. I think we've all learned a lot from this deep dive into the human heart. It's been quite a journey. At its complexity, concern about its vulnerabilities, but ending, I think, with hope for the future.
Yeah, it's a truly amazing organ, worthy of our fascination and our care. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and keep those hearts beating strong.
And on that note, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.